Why did JD McDonagh attack Sami Zayn on Raw? This is honestly a very legitimate question, and I think there's two really logical answers as to why, so we're going to break it down in today's video here on More Ango. Now, JD McDonagh was called up to WWE, and it looked like at first they had some major plans with him. They even did the backstage teases of him joining Judgment Day, and then the reports came out that WWE was putting that on hold. Then JD McDonagh was in the Slim Jim Battle Royal, but he got thrown out relatively early. And I was actually scratching my head when I was there watching it live because I thought at least they would try to give him a decent little push, maybe try to make him look a little bit better in that Battle Royal. But nonetheless, it looks like JD McDonagh took it into his own hands on WWE Raw because he took out Sami Zayn. Now, this was a really cool segment, and honestly, it restored a lot of value in JD McDonagh because it was definitely a statement maker, especially because Sami Zayn currently holds the WWE Undisputed Tag Team Championship belts. So it got me thinking, why did he do it? And obviously, the first obvious answer that a lot of people are going to say is probably more than likely he wants the Tag Team Championships. And it makes a lot of sense, right? Finn Balor, Damian Priest got their own thing going on. There's a lot of storytelling here, and I genuinely believe this is part of that story being told. But then there's a second answer, and we're going to get to that part in just a little bit. But think about it. JD McDonagh pursuing the Tag Team Championship belts with Finn Balor. I mean, it makes a lot of sense, right? Finn Balor wasn't successful for the WWE Heavyweight Championship, and a lot of that could be blamed on Damian Priest. There's obviously a lot of dissension there between Damian Priest and Finn Balor. A lot of people really don't know what to expect, what's going to come from this story, but I do believe it does inevitably end with somebody leaving Judgment Day. And obviously a lot of people are looking at it from the perspective that maybe Finn Balor gets kicked out, but quite honestly, I think Damian Priest is one of the guys that will end up leaving Judgment Day. Now, Triple H said something very interesting at the press conference for SummerSlam. He said you can argue that Rhea is the leader. You can argue that Finn Balor is the leader. You could even argue that Damian Priest is the leader. He also joked and basically said we won't argue Dom being the leader, which is obviously very, very fair. But if you look at Judgment Day, who is the clear, concise leader? There is no obvious answer. So when you look at the Judgment Day storyline, even though people are pointing their fingers at Finn Balor to leave the group, I think Finn Balor is going to do what a leader does and cause the official turn of Damian Priest. Now, Damian Priest could eventually leave Judgment Day, and he could be a babyface or he can be a heel, and he will be very successful at that. But if Finn Balor leaves Judgment Day and becomes a babyface, what is next for Finn Balor? Now, obviously, I think a lot of people watching this video can agree that we would all love to see Finn Balor become the world champion, but it's probably not going to happen. It didn't happen already, and it should have happened, but it didn't happen. And a lot of that is because of Damian Priest. So did JD McDonagh attack Sami Zayn because JD understands that he has a very good chance of winning Tag Team Championship gold with Finn Balor? I mean, at the end of the day, if we are trying to grow the Judgment Day as this really big mega faction and everybody's winning championships, this is a piece to that story that could make a lot of sense. JD McDonagh pursuing the tag titles with Finn Balor, it's a really good thing, especially if they win. It continues to make the Judgment Day a bigger threat. But then eventually somebody has to leave the group, and at that point, you're not going to have JD McDonagh or Finn Balor leave the group. I mean, that could always be a possibility, but if they're a tag team and they're a unit, it would make a lot of sense for them to stay together, which also incentivizes them to have Damian Priest not actually be the leader of the group. And you know, this entire time we've been thinking maybe Damian Priest is going to successfully cash in with Money in the Bank, but you could even argue Finn Balor would be a very, very, very big heel if he were to cost Damian Priest his cash in, right? Damian Priest has cost Finn Balor twice now the opportunity to become champion. So there is a really good reason for Finn Balor to say, no, we're not going to allow this to happen. And if Finn Balor can get JD McDonagh on board, and if he can get Rhea Ripley on board and Dom Mysterio on board, this actually further legitimizes the Judgment Day as a heel group. And in a sense, it also builds a little bit of sympathy for Damian Priest. Now, obviously, that really has a lot to do with whether or not WWE values Damian Priest as a top babyface or a heel. I think he excels well in both roles. But it would be very interesting for them to go that route. So yeah, the obvious answer, he probably attacked Sami Zayn because, well, one, for storyline reasons. We know Kevin Owens is not going to be wrestling due to injury, but at some point we got to start building up this tag team division. And I think there's a lot of potential with the Judgment Day winning tag team gold. Obviously, the New Day are back. We got the Viking Raiders. We got Chad Gable and Otis. I mean, there's a lot of great tag teams on Raw, but in my opinion, it just makes a lot of sense for WWE to do something a little bit different here, and that's by putting tag team gold on the Judgment Day. Now, keep in mind, Dominic Mysterio is the North American champion, and Damian Priest holds Money in the Bank. So yes, this means JD McDonagh would have to join the Judgment Day. But what if the other answer wasn't so obvious? What if JD McDonagh attacked Sami Zayn as part of his initiation to join the Judgment Day? What if JD McDonagh is the wild card in all of the Judgment Day? There's a lot of parallels to the Bloodline storyline, because with the Bloodline storyline, we don't know exactly how everything's going to unfold. We don't really know where Solo Sikoa is going to stand. At times, we get teases that Solo Sikoa might be going solo. And obviously, we don't even know what's going to happen with Paul Heyman. But we know that the Bloodline is falling. We know the Usos do not stand together with the Bloodline. And now Jimmy doesn't even stand together with Jey Uso. There's a lot of parallels with that and the Judgment Day. And if you're the WWE, I think you're going to stretch this out as long as possible. So if you're going to have JD McDonagh officially join the Judgment Day, maybe JD McDonagh is the reason for the downfall. And if I'm WWE, I would really love to see JD McDonagh and Finn Balor feud eventually, because there's a little bit of good, there's a lot of good that could come from a storyline with them getting personal with each other, right? But of course, WWE is at a stage where maybe JD McDonagh finds his way into Judgment Day and then eventually becomes the reason why the Judgment Day is no more. There's a lot that could come from that. And I think there's a lot of benefit to that if you're trying to build new stars. And it seems like WWE does have this understanding that you got to put new faces out there and really allow them to climb up the ranks. It doesn't have to be rushed. But what if JD McDonagh attacked Sami Zayn, not for the tag titles, but so he could find his way into the Judgment Day? What if Finn Balor knows that he's trying to get rid of Damian Priest? And for all we know, JD McDonagh can use this opportunity to double cross Finn and Damian Priest. Because at the end of the day, JD McDonagh turning on both of them and getting them to turn and break will ultimately allow him to become the new leader of the Judgment Day. I love fantasy booking scenarios like this. I love thinking of different possibilities. I'm not saying they're good or bad. I mean, I'll let you guys decide for yourself. But there was a lot of significance in this segment. This wasn't random. WWE clearly has a plan here, and I want to know what you guys think down below.